I'm joined now by Arthur Dong. He's a professor of economics and strategy at Georgetown's University's McDonough School of Business, and want to welcome you to the broadcast. Let's start with Jack Liu's comments. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely agree that this more serious episode in terms of the elevation of the trade wars with China is certainly not going to help the United States with regard to its overall economic prospects. And this disengagement with the world, and certainly disengagement with China in the long run, is going to hurt us.
He said earlier today, when he was kind of telegraphing that he was going to do this, he said lots of money coming into our coffers from China. But that's not really how this works. I mean, these will be passed along to consumers here in the United States and elsewhere, right?
It will be passed along to consumers. The consumers, particularly those at the lower to moderate income levels, who have to stretch their salaries and stretch their payroll in every which way possible, are going to find it more difficult to get on with the daily accommodations of life.
It's interesting because normally when you attempt these sorts of fixes, there's a strategy or a goal. That doesn't seem all that apparent. I mean, what do you think the long-term goal is here?
I think this entire episode is caught in the vortex of electoral politics. I think for President Trump, he sees this as an instrument of political gain. He believes that for his base, he's sort of singing music to his base. In other words, being tough on China, and at least from a rhetorical point of view, suggesting that he's here to protect American interests and American worker rights. So this is very ironic because ultimately he's going to be hurting very large segments of his base as these tariffs really start to gain traction.
What about global growth? You heard Owen refer to that. Are there concerns there?
Yeah, absolutely, because China is an economy that is also fundamentally interwoven with so many different economies in terms of the supplies. So if you take all the products that China makes, a good portion of all the products that they source, from raw materials to minerals to energy, comes from other countries, and many of those countries are American allies. Japan, Germany, Western Europe, South Korea, they are all going to feel the effects of this tariff as the tariffs start to spread globally and affect these supply chains.
We've seen tit for tat all along. What type of retaliation do you suspect you'll see from China?
Well, China can't go toe-to-toe in a sense, because if you take the entirety of what they buy from the United States, it's not going to amount to $200 billion. So they can go fully with all products that are sourced from the United States. But you're going to start to see China to look elsewhere and try to provide as many options, put as many options on the table. China will certainly not stand idly by and just let this happen. They're going to start exploring options, and those options may include non-tariff sort of opportunities, the restriction of licensing for Western as well as American companies, and then certainly maybe even a geopolitical component to this, wherein they're going to signal to the United States, we might cozy up to Russia.
Interesting. And then the art of the deal. We've heard so much about the art of the deal. And yet it seems like when you look at China, they're cutting deals right and left. You see them meeting with all these different countries, cutting deals, very much globalization. Here, it's the art of getting out of the deal. I mean, with NAFTA, you name it. As a strategy, I mean, moving forward, I know he's talking to his base and trying to get them ginned up for the election, but at some point, you have to bring all this back together again. How difficult is it to do that?
It's going to be, it's not going to be easy. And, this, under President Trump, it represents the closure of the American mind, which is very unfortunate because the United States has gained tremendously economically in terms of wealth, in terms of progress, and the elevation of our society as a result of our engagement with the rest of the world in the post-war era. So it's a fundamental change in the entire mindset of the American economy, and I'm not sure where this is going to end.
Well, I suspect you'll be teaching this in your classes at some point.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Arthur. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Michael.